This video and its contents are for adult collectors. Siege Springer isn't a good toy. I don't have very many good things to say about this guy. But we're going to go through this and I'll explain as we go. Starting us off in helicopter mode, it looks fine. I like the spinning propeller, but you can see there's a big gap in the back that doesn't want to collapse. And it's not just my copy. I've seen more than a few copies that have this. And there's a stress mark on the heel because it's broken. He has all this battle damage on the front, which yes, it was Siege, so this is a little bit more forgivable. And it honestly doesn't look that bad on Springer. I think it's okay, and I think that's because it's so well distributed. It's in good spots. And the helicopter does look like Springer's helicopter mode. It's fine. It's not bad or horrid. It's just fine. Continuing on, we have Springer's helicopter compared to a few other things here. Starting us off, we have RTS Jazz, Legacy Skids, Legacy Goldbug, Legacy Road Hauler from Velocitron, and Machine Wars Hoist. For his helicopter mode, getting him from copter to car mode is not fun. Like, Springer, in my opinion, is probably the worst triple changer we got from Siege, Earthrise, just recently. He's not a great triple changer. In my opinion, what a triple changer should do is go flawlessly and seamlessly from robot to either vehicle and either vehicle to either vehicle or either vehicle to robot mode. And you have to go halfway back to his robot mode to get him to his car mode, and I just don't like that. There are some clever things here, like I actually think the legs are very, very clever. Specifically the shins do a lot. They're basically made of these three panels that flip around on a bracket, and that's really, really cool. The arms don't really do a lot though, and then you have to get everything perfectly lined up, and even then some of the stuff doesn't really fit. And like I mentioned, there's some tolerance issues, and mine was broken out of the box and I had to fix it myself. And I don't know if that's just me, but I've also heard the same thing on some other copies, at least of the Siege one, not the Wreckers version. But yeah, it's just a finicky and fiddly transformation that ends up with a pretty mediocre car mode. When we get to car mode, it's kind of the laziest excuse of a car you can get. It's essentially just a helicopter with the tail fin folded up and making a rear end while the front of the helicopter shunts forward. This cockpit or driver's seat is really tiny, but it's forgivable because this was Siege and this is technically a Cybertronian mode, not a 2005 Earth mode like the normal movie version is supposed to be. And the greens are nice, and for once it actually fully collapses. Although his accessories don't have anywhere to go in this mode. Sure, you can actually mount the guns on the front, you can mount the swords on the side, but that rotor, where's it go? It doesn't go anywhere, it just sits there. Now, looking at the front end here, I do think the battle damage actually works out really well on the car mode. It doesn't mean that it's forgivable and that it's good, it just means it looks better here. For comparison, again in car mode, we have RTS Jazz, Legacy Goldbug, Road Hauler, and Machine Wars Hoist. I complained about getting from helicopter to car mode. Car mode to robot mode is kind of the same thing, except now all the trouble is in the upper torso. Whereas last time it was all in the lower torso or in the shins. The shins basically just fold down and then the feet flip out. That's nothing on here. But when you get to the upper torso, you have to tab in so many things simultaneously while basically holding together a cardboard box without tape, so that way hoping it doesn't collapse to get this guy transformed. And I'm just not a big fan of that. You have to get these clips in and then these tabs in on the back, and it's just not a good time. And half the time it ends you with a chest that doesn't feel loose. And untabbing the hood from the windshield section shouldn't be as difficult as it is. You have these two blast effect ports that tab in under it, and it just doesn't feel good to transform. I don't like it. Now, when you do get him into robot mode, he is a very handsome robot, and I do actually like the way Springer looks. And I do think the shoulder transformation is slick and compact, especially at Voyager price. I think he does have a lot going on for a Voyager. If you like my channel's content, support it with a Patreon subscription or channel membership, links below. Thank you. Articulation on Springer is actually pretty above par. Getting his gun out of his hand, he has a very emotive ball joint at the neck, so he can look all over and be like, I have better things tonight to do than die. His arms don't go 180, but they do rotate into just about every position you want them to. His inner arms are on a slight pivot, so you can kind of finagle those a little bit. He has more than 90 at the elbow, wrist swivel, and the arms go out sub 90. He has a rotation at the waist that does not go 180. His legs go forward about 90, backwards about 90. They go out. So you can... He does have a joint there, but it's mostly for transformation. He has a better than 90 at the knee, and if you futz it, you can get a 90 degree... not a 90 degree, but a more than... like a double joint. There we go. He has ankle pivot, which is nice, and his foot rotates forward and backwards. Now, my problem with this guy is right there. Just wiggling him, and his legs go all over the place, and then his ankle is stupid loose, and the heel was busted out of the box. There's just a lot of tolerance issues with this guy, and if you look at him funny, he tends to fall over because his backpack weighs a lot. So, like, yeah, and then you can't store... Like, you can store a ton of the accessories on him. He can hold his blasters. You can store the swords on the same backpack section. But, like, this thing really has nowhere to go. Sure, you can put it there, but it's just kind of ugly. And, yeah, the guns can sit up on the shoulders, which I actually really like. But, yeah, there's just so much about him, and I don't really feel like paying an upgrade for a toy that I think is bad. I really hate that I like this robot mode as much as I do, because it does look like Springer, and like Springer should be, it's a very handsome and suave robot mode. That head sculpt is undeniably Springer. Sure, he does look a little different than he does in the '86 movie, but this is still a fantastic representation, and unlike a lot of Siege figures whose battle damage ends up in only specific spots, his is all over the place, and it kind of works because it's so spread out. He can also pose like no tomorrow. This is one of the most posable Voyagers I've handled in a long time, and it really sucks because I don't necessarily like this toy because of its tolerances. I like everything else about it though, and this robot mode almost salvages it. If this wasn't a Springer and it was a less important character to my collection, I probably wouldn't have kept him as long as I have, but this Springer, I do find myself playing with it in robot mode every so often because he has such a nice and posable robot mode. For comparison, he's pretty tall. We have Legacy Windblade, Legacy Galvatron, here's Titan's Return Nautica, and we have Channel Mascot, Laserfire, and Shattershock. Yes, I have not reposed them yet, and Machine Wars Hoist. So what do I think of Springer? This is the figure they're using for the basis of the new 86 leader class, and I really think they should have just gone with a new mold. The tolerances on this one, or at least on my copy, are not good, and I don't think that this thing really warranted the amount of retooling that it deserved. You can see he falls over just because he can't support himself. Do I think he looks good? Yes. Do I think that the leader class really looks all that better? Not really. I don't think it looks much different than this, and if you're okay having a slightly inaccurate Springer with some dirty parts on him, the Siege one works perfectly in 86 shelf. It's worked perfectly on my 86 shelf since they started Studio Series 86. I think this is a good looking Springer. I think it's a half decent representation of him. I think it's better than half decent representation of Springer. I think this is a perfectly suitable movie looking Springer, G1-esque Springer. If you want a toy accurate version of this, get the Wreckers one. But overall, I think that this one's okay. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. Make sure to check out those videos right here and the links in the description. I'll see you in the next one. This has been Bot's Obsession.